The apartment building at 17 Calder Street had stood in the same corner of Manchester since 1897. Red brick, narrow windows, iron railings that had rusted into the same deep brown as dried blood. Most tenants stayed no longer than a year. The rent was cheap, the location convenient, but something about the place made people restless. They would sign 6-month leases, then quietly move out before the ink dried on the next payment. Estate agents called it high turnover. Residents called it something else, though never allowed. Room 4C was at the far end of the third-floor corridor. The door was painted the same dull green as every other door, but the brass number 4 had been screwed on slightly crooked, as though someone had hung it in a hurry. Inside, the flat was ordinary. 1 bedroom, small kitchen, bathroom with cracked tiles, sitting room barely large enough for a sofa and a television. The only unusual feature was the corridor that led from the sitting room to the bedroom. It was longer than it should have been. No architect's plan of the building showed a corridor of that length. The external wall was only 23 feet from the internal partition wall, yet the corridor measured 37 feet when paced carefully. Most tenants never noticed. They walked from sitting room to bedroom in 4 strides and thought nothing of it. But some did notice, and those who noticed usually left soon afterward. Elena Navarro moved in on a Tuesday in late September. She was 29, a freelance translator working from home, recently separated, no children, no pets, only 2 suitcases and a cardboard box of books. She liked the quiet. She liked that the rent included water and electricity. She liked that the landlord had not asked for references. She spent the first day unpacking. The flat smelled faintly of old varnish and something sweeter. Jasmine, perhaps, though no flowers grew nearby. She placed her books on the shelves, hung clothes in the wardrobe, set her laptop on the small table by the window. When she walked down the corridor to the bedroom for the first time, she felt it. A slight lag, as though the distance resisted her steps. She paused, looked back. The sitting room seemed farther away than it should. She shook her head, blamed fatigue. That night she woke at 3:17 a.m. to the sound of footsteps. They were soft, careful, coming from the direction of the bedroom door. She lay still, listening. The footsteps reached the middle of the corridor and stopped. Silence. Then they retreated, back toward the bedroom, fading until nothing remained but her own breathing. She told herself it was the building settling. Old structures made noises. She went back to sleep. The next morning she measured the corridor. From the sitting room doorway to the bedroom doorway, 37 feet and 4 inches. She paced it again. Same result. She opened the bedroom window and leaned out. The external wall was directly beneath her, straight drop to the alley below. No extra space, no hidden room. She closed the window and laughed at herself. She worked through the day translating a technical manual from German to English. At dusk, she walked to the kitchen for water. As she passed the corridor, she glanced down it. The bedroom door was open. She had closed it that morning. She walked toward it. Halfway down, she felt the air change, thicker, cooler, scented with that same jasmine. She reached the bedroom door and looked inside. The bed was made. The wardrobe doors were shut. Nothing out of place. She turned back. The sitting room now looked much farther away. She walked back quickly. The distance seemed to stretch with each step. Her heart beat faster. When she finally reached the sitting room doorway, she was breathing hard. She looked behind her. The corridor was normal again, 23 feet from doorway to doorway. She had imagined it. That night, the footsteps returned. This time, they did not stop in the middle. They continued past the bedroom door, toward the far end of the corridor, where there should have been nothing but wall. She heard them pause there, then a soft click, like a latch being tried, then retreat. In the morning, she searched the bedroom end of the corridor. She knocked on the wall, listened for hollow spaces. Nothing. Solid brick. She pressed her ear to the plaster. Silence. She began leaving the bedroom door open at night. She slept with the light on in the sitting room. She told herself it helped her feel less alone. On the fifth night, she woke to find the corridor light on. She had not switched it on. The bulb was bare, hanging from a frayed cord, casting harsh yellow light down the length of the passage. At the far end, where the corridor met the bedroom wall, stood a mirror. It had not been there before. Tall, narrow, framed in black wood carved with faint scrolling vines. The glass was old, slightly rippled, silvering beginning to flake at the edges. It stood flush against the wall, as though it had grown there. Elena sat up. The mirror reflected the corridor perfectly. Yellow light, peeling paint, her own open bedroom door. But in the reflection she saw something else. A woman standing in the doorway of what should have been the bedroom. The woman looked like Elena. Same short dark hair, same narrow shoulders, but older. Mid-40s, perhaps. Lines around the eyes. A faint scar on the left cheek that Elena did not have. She wore a simple gray dress Elena had never owned. She was looking straight at the mirror, straight at Elena. Elena stood. The woman in the mirror stood too, mirroring her movement exactly. Elena walked toward the corridor. The woman walked toward her, out of the bedroom doorway into the reflected corridor. Elena stopped at the sitting room end. The woman stopped at the mirror end. They stared at each other across 37 feet of impossible distance. Elena raised her right hand. The woman raised her left. Elena took one step forward. The woman took one step forward. Elena spoke. "Who are you?" The woman's lips moved, but no sound came from the mirror. Instead, Elena heard her own voice, soft, calm, slightly accented, coming from behind her. "I'm the one who stayed." Elena spun around. The sitting room was empty. She looked back at the mirror. The woman was closer now, halfway down the reflected corridor. Elena had not seen her move. Elena backed into the sitting room and closed the door. She sat on the sofa until dawn, light on, television playing with the sound off. When gray light came through the window, she opened the door again. The corridor was empty. The mirror was gone. She told herself she had dreamed it. She spent the day searching online for information about the building. Old newspaper clippings mentioned a fire in 1924 that killed 3 tenants on the 3rd floor. One article included a photograph of the corridor outside room 4C. Except in the photo, the corridor ended at a blank wall. No bedroom door, no extra length. She found a forum post from 2018. A user named CalderResident88 wrote, "Moved into 4C last month. Something wrong with the hallway. Feels longer at night. Saw my reflection move before I did. Left yesterday. Do not recommend." The post had 3 replies. One said, "Same." Another said, "It's the mirror." The third said, "Don't look too long." Elena closed the laptop. That evening, she bought a small round makeup mirror from the corner shop and carried it back to the flat. She stood at the sitting room end of the corridor and held it up, angling it so she could see around corners without stepping forward. Nothing. She walked halfway down, mirror raised. At the bedroom end, she saw it again, the tall mirror, black frame, rippled glass. It stood exactly where it had the night before. She lowered the makeup mirror. The tall mirror reflected her holding the small mirror. In the reflection, the woman in gray stood behind her reflected self, close enough to touch. Elena dropped the makeup mirror. It shattered on the floorboards. The tall mirror vanished. She swept up the glass, hands shaking, and threw the pieces into the bin. She left the light on all night. The footsteps returned every night after that. They no longer stopped at the far end. They paced the entire length, back and forth, until dawn. Sometimes they paused outside the sitting room door. Sometimes they continued past it, as though the corridor now extended beyond the flat itself. On the 10th night, Elena woke to find the bedroom door closed. She had left it open. She walked across the sitting room, opened the door, and looked down the corridor. The mirror was back. This time it was closer, only 20 feet away. The woman in gray stood in front of it, facing Elena. Elena stayed where she was. The woman raised her right hand. Elena felt her own right hand lift without permission. The woman took one step forward. Elena's legs moved one step forward. She tried to stop. Her body refused. Another step. The woman smiled, small, sad, almost kind. Elena spoke through clenched teeth. "Stop." The woman's lips formed the same word, but no sound. Elena's feet kept moving. 10 feet. 5. The woman reached out. Elena felt cold fingers close around her wrist. The mirror swallowed them both. She fell forward into glass that was not glass, into cold, thick darkness that smelled of jasmine and old varnish. She landed on her knees on a floor that felt like polished wood. When she looked up, she was in the corridor again, but reversed. The mirror stood behind her now. Beyond it, she could see the sitting room, her sitting room, but the colors were wrong. Too bright, too saturated, like a photograph left in the sun too long. Through the open bedroom door, she saw herself, younger Elena, unpacking suitcases, unaware. The woman in gray stood beside her. "You stayed," she said. Her voice was Elena's voice, but slower, heavier with years. "I didn't choose this," Elena said. "You looked. I didn't know. You always look." The woman gestured toward the mirror. Beyond it, younger Elena walked down the corridor, 4 strides, into the bedroom. The door closed behind her. "You'll do it again," the woman said, "and again, until you stay." Elena turned to run back through the mirror. The glass was solid. She pounded on it. No sound, no cracks. Behind her, the corridor stretched. Longer now, 40 feet, 50, 60. Doors appeared along the walls. Identical green doors, each numbered for C. She opened the first one. Inside was the flat, her flat, but the furniture was different. Older sofa, different books on the shelves. A woman who looked like her but with longer hair sat at the table, translating. She did not look up. Elena closed the door. She opened the next. Same flat, different woman, short hair again but wearing glasses. She was crying quietly, staring at a photograph of a man Elena did not recognize. Next door, another version, hair dyed red, tattoos on her arms. She was packing a suitcase, moving out. Elena stopped opening doors. She walked back to the mirror. The woman in gray waited. "How do I leave?" Elena asked. "You don't," the woman said. "You become me. Then another version of you arrives. She looks, she stays, and so on." "Why?" "Because someone has to watch the corridor." Elena looked past the woman. The corridor continued, endless now, doors on both sides, all of them 4C. "How many?" she asked. The woman smiled again, gentler this time. "As many as it takes." Elena sat on the floor. She thought of the real world beyond the mirror, the Tuesday she moved in, the cheap rent, the quiet. She thought of the life she had tried to rebuild after the separation. She looked at her hands. They were the same hands. But when she looked closer, she saw faint lines at the corners of the eyes, a scar beginning to form on the left cheek. She stood up. She walked to the mirror and pressed her palm against it. This time it gave softly like water. She stepped through. She landed in the sitting room. Everything was as she had left it. Laptop open, half-finished translation on the screen, coffee cup cold on the table. The corridor door was open. She walked to it and looked down. 37 feet and 4 inches. No mirror. No woman. She closed the bedroom door. She sat at the table and began typing again. That night she left the corridor light off. The footsteps did not come. In the morning she measured the corridor again. 23 feet. She laughed. Quiet. Relieved. She finished the translation, sent it to the client, booked a viewing for a 1-bedroom flat closer to the city center. She packed her suitcases. On the day she left, she locked the door of 4C behind her and slid the key under the landlord's door. She did not look back. 3 weeks later, the next tenant moved in. A young man, graphic designer, quiet. He noticed the corridor on his first day. He paced it. He laughed at himself. That night he woke to footsteps. He opened the bedroom door. He looked down the corridor. And at the far end, where there should have been wall, a tall mirror waited.